Greetings and welcome to the session on social emotional learning, also known as socio emotional learning or in short SEL. Allow me to start by quoting Dalai Lama, who says, "It is vital that when educating our children's brains that we do not neglect to educate their hearts." The agenda of discussion is Introduction to SEL, why SEL, core SEL competencies, implementation, extending the core SEL competencies, impact of enhancing students' SEL, and lastly, web resources and conclusion. Let's follow the deductive approach here. So we'll directly start with the definition part. So SEL is the process through which children and adults acquire and effectively apply the knowledge, attitudes, and skills necessary to make responsible decisions, set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, understand and manage emotions, and lastly, establish and maintain positive relationships. Here comes the big question, why SEL? To set the context, SEL wasn't much of a concern in India as people stayed in joint families. As we know that the social structure is changing, and one con of it being that the families are becoming nuclear. That is, kids stay only with their parents. There are no grandparents around to share the wisdom in the form of simple stories, which has a profound impact on the child's learning. Keeping abreast with the latest scenario, the non-presence of the grandparents to a certain extent was being taken care by the teachers. So here we have a teacher sitting in front of a computer system and then interacting with the students over the virtual platform. Students used to share their concerns, their thoughts, listen to teachers' advice, hear real-life stories from them, get motivated, and take delight in each other's company. Who do you think are the heroes of the pandemic? Yes, they are none other than the kids. For us as an adult, we do understand that pandemics have happened in the human history and they are not new. But for the kids, it has been a tough and an incomprehensible situation. At times, all the wrath and anxiety are downpoured on these young souls and they don't know the reason why. Conducting SEL will not only help to ease out the pressure but also help establishing a stronger bond between the teacher and the pupil over the virtual learning platform. To discuss the core SEL competencies, let's take this flower with 5 petals. So we have the first SEL competency as self-management, relationship building, self-awareness, responsible decision making, and lastly, social awareness. Let's know a bit more about these SEL competencies. The first one is self-awareness, which is about identifying emotions, self-perception or identity, recognizing strengths, sense of self-confidence, and self-efficacy. Self-management is about impulse control, stress management, self-discipline, self-motivation, perseverance, goal setting, and organizational skills. Social awareness is about perspective taking, empathy, appreciating diversity, and respect for others. Relationship building is about communication, social engagement, building relationships, working cooperatively, resolving conflicts, helping or seeking help. And lastly, responsible decision making is about identifying problems, analyzing situations, solving problems, evaluating, reflecting, and ethical responsibility. The competency parameters highlighted in bold will be a part of our video discussion today. For implementation of SEL, we require answers to 2 basic questions. Number 1, whether social emotional skills are teachable in a school setting. Based on a survey conducted by CASEL, which is Collaborative for Academic, Social and Emotional Learning, 74% of the teachers believe yes, SEL is teachable. The second question is based on the commitment level from the teacher's end. So in this case, we have 69% teachers who say they are very committed. Keeping India in context, at school level, we need to identify empathetic educators who have a passion for SEL, make them run through age-appropriate content, and further conduct separate sessions for students and parents. It is also important to recognize that as a process, it will take time, patience, and perseverance. Despite positive narratives, there will be people who do not believe in integrating social emotional competencies to make learning effective. These competencies are foundational skills to ensure students have the social, emotional, behavioral, and academic skills necessary for being responsible and capable citizens. Implementation of SEL by teachers. The first step is emotional awareness. Feelings or emotions, which are two sides of the same coin, are a part of human nature. They give us information about what we are experiencing and help us know how to react or respond. To handle difficult or challenging situations, it is important that both children and adults learn to recognize their emotions, understand that people have emotions, and learn to manage their emotions. Let's discuss activities which teachers can do to practice the skills of recognizing and managing emotions. To identify the emotions, we have an interesting activity, emotion charades. Let's identify the emotions being represented in the images being displayed. The first one is scared. Second one is sad, mad, nervous, frustrated, lonely, happy, and the last one is embarrassed. While the online session is going on, this activity can be easily conducted by the teachers. Its name is Talk and Listen. At the time of starting a virtual session, ask the check-in word. Do same at the end of the session and ask for the checkout word. Example, I was confused at the start of session, but now I'm clear. I was nervous before the class started, but after the class I'm excited. The check-in and check-out words will be different or same for students and will give an insight to what each of the student is feeling. We confined ourselves to 8 emotions recently. Those emotions are mostly associated with students of grades 1 to 5. Grades 6 and above have a variety of emotions. So we have extending emotion charades, and this is ABCD of emotions. Let's go through it quickly. Aggressive, agonized, anxious, apologetic, arrogant, bashful, blissful, bored, cautious, cold, concentrating, confident, curious, determined, disappointed, disapproving, disbelieving, disgusted, distasteful, eavesdropping, ecstatic. Next we have enraged, envious, exasperated, exhausted, frightened, frustrated, grieving, guilty, happy, horrified, hot, hungover, hurt, hysterical, indifferent, idiotic, innocent, interested, jealous, joyful, lonely. The list has not ended here. Next we have love struck, meditative, mischievous, miserable, negative, obstinate, optimistic, pained, paranoid, regretful, relieved, sad, satisfied, shocked, sheepish, smug, surprised, suspicious, sympathetic, thoughtful, and the last one is we can add our own. The senior grade students tend to show different intensities in their emotions. Here we have 5 emotions: calm, happy, angry, sad, and afraid. And if they are happy, they can be pleased, delighted, buoyant, elated, jubilant, and euphoric. If they are angry, they can be annoyed, irritated, offended, riled, irate, and furious. If they are sad, they can be pensive, somber, gloomy, discouraged, forlorn, and despairing. If they are afraid, they can be timid, insecure, worried, fretful, alarmed, and terrified. Next we have golden words. Let's go through these 3 emoticons. Please, sorry, and thank you are known as the golden words. Using these 3 words means you have good manners, and on a subtle note, their usage ensures healthy communication. Next part of the implementation can be taken by the parents. Here we have the first option as guided stories and videos. When reading with your child or watching videos together, take the opportunity to identify any conflict or difference of opinion and guide your child in recognizing each depicted person's perspective. This gives your child practice in developing empathy and identifying the problem in situations in which he or she is not directly involved. Let me share a story as an example. So in the story, a girl child is angry because her brother tore her notebook. Her brother is a toddler and really likes to rip and crunch paper apart. He gets excited whenever he sees paper. It seems the problem in the story is when the child leaves the notebook on the table. Taking this situation into account, we can help the child develop a good solution to this problem. Next, we have diary writing. Hope as an adult, you also must have done it in the past or are still continuing doing it. It provides a non-threatening way to be able to explore different thoughts, ideas, topics, and feelings without being concerned about audience presentation. It gives freedom to the child to express freely. All that we need to ensure is that the collection of positive thoughts outweigh the negative thoughts. And this activity can be very well taken with the students from grade 3 and above. Write down, rip up, and throw away your stress. Here on the screen we have a crumpled paper. Have children write down their expectations and insecurities, rip them up, and throw them away. This emotional check-in takes about 3 minutes. By acknowledging how your children are feeling, you will acknowledge their barriers to learning and create a safe space to overcome them. A letter to yourself. This might sound as a strange activity, but is an amazing one. This activity lets students write wish, future goals, etc. and can be handed over by parents after a year. It being a long-term activity will give a comparison and reflection on the changes happened in the year. Questions to ask kids after school instead of "How was your day?" "How was your day?" gives a very limited space to the student to express himself or herself. So if we revise and rephrase our questions, that will bring newness and at the same time provide necessary space. We can have following questions. What made you smile today? What something new did you learn today? What was your favorite part of today? Tell me something you know today that you did not know yesterday. If you could change one thing about your day, what would it be? What made your teacher smile today? What kind of person were you today? All talks and no multimedia makes us dull. It's time to see a video, and I'll be sharing SEL The Time Is Now video, which will show the real essence of the program. So let's watch it.
Promise to
be respectful,
be
be responsible,
responsible,
be safe,
be safe,
and be ready to learn.
and be ready to learn. Yes.
It's really exciting to be at a time in the social and emotional learning movement where we have not only the evidence to undergird the work, but we have practical implementation models that make it possible for districts to actually start.
We've done the groundwork of good things that can happen in the classroom, good things that can happen in the school, good things that can happen in the community, good things that can happen at the district level. We're at an inflection point.
The idea is to leverage SEL in order to help young people realize those talents and thereby help the broader society and in fact the world.
Over the last few years, we've seen a massive increase in the number of people who know they want it. This is a moment.
90% of parents, 90% of teachers, principals who say they want more, that social emotional learning is important, they want more of it, they want training in it, they want to prioritize it.
The exponential growth of social and emotional learning isn't just happening in the US. We're seeing its growth across the world in countries including China, Russia, all of the European Union, Australia, and many others who are now embracing social and emotional learning.
We're saying to people, try something new. Believe in your kids. Believe that they are ready to learn if you just help them unlock their hearts, find belonging in their relationships, and find purpose in the content of which you're trying to teach them.
If you ask me how I feel about this now, I'm absolutely amazed at the impact we're having.
We are absolutely in a moment where this can really happen. We really can create schools that inspire, that help students find their sense of self, that help students find their sense of purpose, to learn how to relate to one another, and to better prepare kids for wherever they choose to go in life.
Picture shown is a beautiful disc created by Castle for extending the core SEL competencies. SEL does not remain confined as a practice between the tutor and the pupil. It can be easily extended to classrooms, to schools, and homes and communities. This will require SEL curriculum and instruction, school-wide practice and policies, and lastly, family and community partnerships. Impact of enhancing students' SEL. Research shows that SEL has a positive impact on school ecosystem and promotes a host of academic, social, and emotional benefits for students. Students receiving quality SEL instructions demonstrate better academic performance, improved attitudes and behaviors. I believe this is one of the most important one. Fewer negative behaviors, and lastly, reduced emotional distress. This video was a mere introduction or step 1 of SEL. Deployment of SEL requires various stages, and information for that can be obtained from these web resources. With this, we come to an end of the session on SEL. Before leaving, I have a question for you. Would you like to implement SEL in your teaching learning process? Do share it in the comments. Thank you for being patient, and my name is Manmohan Kathari.